Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachet Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine. We now move over to this Inspired Talks that Swamiji had on July 12th. Interestingly, this is the 50th talk, and we still have some distance to go. In Bengali, when we were covering, we had 109 talks, and probably we will exceed that number. Now, on July 12th, Swamiji began with Shankara's commentary on Brahmasutras, Sutra number 4, Tattu Samanvayat. And some of you already know what exactly these Brahmasutras are and what this fourth sutra is about. However, for those who do not know, I'm just giving you an overview. If you understand the larger picture, it will be easy for you to understand what exactly Swamiji is discussing. Actually, the disciples of Swamiji who had been attending these talks had some idea about all these things because they had been attending Swamiji's talks. But nowadays, we don't have exposure to all this. And the basic preparation that is required is lacking. Worse, we have now grown into this pop culture. Even Vedanta is now studied and taught through pop culture. It's slightly difficult to understand all this. Just to give you a very, very brief summary of what these Brahmasutras are. The fountainhead of Hindu religion, spirituality, practices, everything are the Vedas, the 4 Vedas. Those of you who are interested in knowing something about the Vedas, we have some talks in English on Hinduism series. There we have just given an overview of what the Vedas are and of some mantras and suktas, hymns. Now, the Vedas were not composed by one person, as happens, say, with other religions. Many sages had contributed. And although many sages had contributed, the general idea was that they are all telling the same thing. Why? Because these are not poetic compositions. When the British and German scholars started translating the Vedas, they did a great work, no doubt about it. But as far as spiritual philosophy is concerned, they made a thorough mess of the whole thing. And if you have some ideas about what the Vedas are and what Hindu culture is, you will simply feel aghast at what they have done to Hindu culture. Now, the Brahmins who were maintaining the Vedas and who used to study the Vedas in detail, they knew the fundamental fact about the Vedas that these were the realizations, mind, realization. Realization is when your mind becomes still. And depending on the level of the stillness, your realization will be different. And when your mind is completely still, you only have the sense of oneness, which is generally known as Advaita. When there is slightest of movement in the mind, you perceive dualism, Advaita. Now, Advaita and Dvaita are not two different things. They are actually same. Just that it's a matter of perception. Because Advaita means silence. You have to go silent. Now, when it comes to spiritual realization, when your mind becomes still and you really start perceiving the spirituality, the sages and the learned scholars, they knew it. They knew that spiritual reality cannot be two. This is something Swamiji will be discussing repeatedly in Inspired Talks and through his different works. Now, it would have been difficult for us to believe this unless Sri Ramakrishna had advented. When Sri Ramakrishna came, He showed through his spiritual realizations that indeed all faiths lead to same goal. This is number one. Number two, spiritual reality is ultimately the same, but how you perceive it, that will be different. So naturally religions will be different, no doubt, and their applications will always be different. So you cannot expect religion X, religion Y, religion Z to be similar to, say, Hinduism, because when we are talking about Hinduism or Islam or Christianity, these are the applications of spiritual truth in a society. Now society being different, applications will be different. However, the Vedas were huge, simply huge. And sages, because they were trying to find the common link between the sages, between the Vedas, they came up with different conclusions. And these different conclusions ultimately resulted in 6 orthodox systems of philosophy, of which Sankhya was the oldest, Yoga was the practical application of Sankhya. Then there was Nyaya, logicians who tried to work out things logically. And then there was Vaisheshika, which was fine-tuning of Nyayika and more practical aspect. And then there was Mimamsa. Mimamsa, translated in English, means solution. These are the hardcore Vedic followers, hardcore. Because whenever we think of Vedas, we think of rituals. And these were the people who believed that rituals are the ultimate directions and directives of the Vedas. And then there was Vedanta. So, although there are 6 systems, by their twin settlement, there can be 3. That is Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and Mimamsa and Vedanta. To prove their point that they are correct about what the Vedas mean to say, they all developed independent system of philosophy, which are now known as 6 orthodox philosophies, Sadadarshan, 6 philosophies. And while giving their philosophy, which was usually written in aphorism style, that is in just few words, because the students who studied a particular system, he studied under a guru, and just to memorize whatever he had learned, he just needed some formulas. These were in the style of formulas. And the arguments offered by each one of them are of very high quality. And they not only explain the Vedas, they also explain what that system means and how they contradict other systems. They say that if you want to study only the Nyaya system of philosophy, it may take your whole life. And I've been lucky to meet some of these scholars of Nyaya. What phenomenal knowledge do you have? This is amazing what knowledge they have. However, that's not our concern. Here, our concern is Vedanta. Sages who were into this Vedanta system of thought, they were there since time immemorial. But when Vyasa came on scene, he kind of organized that Vedanta system, and he wrote different works that brought out the idea of Vedanta very clearly. Mahabharata is one of them, and Gita, which is contained in Mahabharata, is one of them. And Vyasa said that whatever the Vedas want to say, the ultimate spiritual truth are contained in the Upanishads. And then he wrote his own philosophy like any other philosopher, and that was Brahmasutras. He wrote 555 sutras, 555. They're known as Brahmasutras, and you cannot understand anything what is written there. So the Brahmasutras continue to be the main framework of Vedanta. And it still is. However, now they are known as the three strands of Vedanta: Upanishads, Gita, and Brahmasutras. And Brahmasutras became famous after Shankaracharya wrote a commentary based on Brahmasutras, not based on Brahmasutras. And there he gave an introduction. In one of our earlier talks, you'll find how he introduces the subject. Yusmad Asmat Pratyaya Gochar. We have discussed it. And then he takes up sutra after sutra. That is aphorism after aphorism. And there, Acharya Shankar, he goes on explaining what Vedanta is and why Vedanta is correct. And he demolishes other five systems of thought based on the Vedas, the five that we mentioned. And this so-called scientific outlook that we have, that is materialistic outlook, where matter is everything, he simply blasts it away. It doesn't stand anywhere. And both the philosophy and Jain philosophy, they are also blown away. And Brahmasutras, that is why it's so difficult to understand. Those of you who are interested in this work, although I will request you not to go for it because you will not understand anything, you'll find Prabhu Maharaj, Srimad Swami Vireshwaranandaji Maharaj, he wrote two books which were the essence of Brahmasutra according to Shankara and Brahmasutra according to Ramanuja. You may be able to understand, but if you go for the original commentary by Shankaracharya or Ramanuja, you will not understand anything because we are not trained that way. It is the entire process, the presentation, etc. is different. So I remember once when I was at Advaita Ashram, we used to have book fair. And I was this Kolkata book fair. I was there also looking after our stall. And one gentleman came and he liked this book, Brahmasutra. And then just to caution him, I told him, it's a very difficult work, you won't understand. And the gentleman became very angry. He said, I know English. And if there is some word which I cannot understand, there is a dictionary. I'll see the meaning. So I thought it's meaningless to tell him anything. It's a technical thing. Simply because you know English, that does not mean that you will understand theory of relativity. So I said, look, I'm here to sell books. So he gave me a very disdainful look. And I still wonder how that gentleman must have felt when he started reading that. Because it's very difficult. Very difficult. You have to have a very thorough grounding in Upanishads, in different systems of philosophy, and then you need to be taught by a teacher to understand whatever there is in Brahmasutras. First sutra is Janmadasi Yataha. That also had come, Swamiji had discussed. And now comes the fourth. These four are known as Chatussutri, the four sutras. And many students who study philosophy and Sanskrit, they study these four sutras. If you can understand these four sutras, more or less you get an idea of what is there to come. Whatever will follow, you can get from these four sutras. And you get a very fair idea of what Vedanta is. Now, this sutra is Tattu Samanvayat. Atman is the aim of all. All means all the Vedas. So, Vyasa says in his Brahma Sutra that the aim of all the Vedas is to talk about Brahman. You will see that here in this discussion by Swamiji is using the word Brahman, Atman, and Ishwar, that is God, interchangeably. Actually, they are interchangeable, which we have discussed many times. And this talk is extremely important for anyone who is interested in Vedanta. So now, as I mentioned, that each philosophy claims that the way they perceive the Vedas is the correct way. But that is what happens with God also. Muslims will say that that their God is the true God, and Christians will say that their God is true God, and Hindus will say that their God is true God. Because when you look at the infinite, you look through your mind, and you will know that to be correct, whatever comes to your mind. It's very natural. Now, when Vyasa says that the purpose of the Vedas is to talk about God, Swamiji here says Ishvara, Ishvara, but actually there the word is Atman. And Swamiji here translates that Atman is aim of all. That is self-knowledge. That is Advaita. Atman is Brahman. Atman, that is the individual consciousness, is one with the universal consciousness. Now, Mimamsaks, they are also known as Purva Mimamsa, because Vedanta also claims itself to be Mimamsak. Mimamsa, conclusions. Now, Vedanta says, they say themselves Uttar Mimamsa, that we are the right people to have reached the correct conclusion. These are technicalities, not very important. Now, Mimamsaks were very profound philosophers. And it is said in the scholarly circle that if you really want to understand the technical aspect of Vedanta, Vedanta runs on technical things. It's extremely logical, extremely technical. You need to understand Mimamsa philosophy. Unless you have studied Mimamsa philosophy, you cannot understand the intricacies of Vedanta, because Mimamsa is treated as Pradhana Malla, the chief wrestler, because Mimamsa dealt with all the other systems and defeated all of them. Now, what Vedanta needed was to defeat this Mimamsa system of philosophy there. The way they have idealism and realism and objectivism and subjectivism, objectivism in the West. Now, Mimamsa had developed some beautiful systems of argument. When you argue about something, there has to be a very clean code. The parameters must be very clearly defined. Unless parameters are defined, argument will lead nowhere. And these Mimamsak had very clearly said that if we need to find out the purport of the Vedas, what exactly Vedas mean to say, then these 6 conditions need to be applied. These are slightly technical thing, but not very difficult. So, for example, they say that the beginning and the end must say the same thing. And the idea must be repeated again and again and again. And they must be talking of something which does not belong to direct perception. Naturally, why would somebody read scriptures? Supposing your scripture says that water runs down. Now, why do you need scripture to know that water runs down? Clouds move in the sky. Why do you need scriptures to know that? Even otherwise you can know. So the knowledge that comes through these scriptures has to belong to the realm that is beyond senses. So scriptures must not talk about what belongs to the senses. And if you go through the Vedas do not talk about that. Sometimes they took metaphors, analogies, this, that from this world. But things that they discuss in the Vedas, they belong to something entirely different. Same with Vedanta. And Mimamsaks were very proud about this thing. That this is the method. Number 1. Number 2, whenever you have a scripture, they will either ask you to move towards something, or they will ask you not to do certain things. The technical term for that in Sanskrit is vidhi nised, injunctions, prohibitions. You are asked to do certain things and you are asked not to do certain other things. Okay. Now, if Vedanta is to be accepted, you say that the purpose of the Vedas is Vedanta, that is Upanishads. And Upanishads keep talking about Aham Brahmasmi. You are that soul. Essentially, man is divine. Now, if a man is divine, as Swami says, each soul is potentially divine. If you are divine by nature, where is the need for any action? When you do some action, you get into some action to achieve something. It's very obvious. Any effort will always produce a result. Now, there is no result required because you are Atman already, just that you do not know. That means no action is needed. Those of you who have listened to our talks on Gita, it is there in English. It's, I think, 63 talks. In 63 talks, we have covered entire Gita in English. If you are interested, you should listen to absolutely honest presentation of Gita based on Acharya Shankara's commentary. This topic comes repeatedly there. That Atman is pure and you are that. Tattvamasi, you are that. You don't need to do anything. So why should there be scriptures if you have to do nothing? It's a very simple argument basically. Scriptures are meant to give you some injunctions or prohibitions. And you say that Atman is self-evident. Everyone is Atman, just that he has forgotten. That means there is nothing to achieve. Then why have these Vedas? And because if you take this sutra, Atman is the aim of all. Tattu samanvayat. In that case, all other philosophies will collapse for very obvious reasons. And other systems of philosophy will not let Vedanta walk with all the trophy, all the prizes. And they attack vigorously. And Acharya Shankara, he systematically demolishes each one of them. It's a treat reading how he handles the arguments and objections of Mimamsa. And then what beauty of Acharya Shankara and the sheer talent of Acharya Shankara lay in that he always used the method of argumentation of his opponents and he would vanquish them through that. Now, what Acharya Shankara did in this sutra was he took the system of Mimamsa that, okay, you say that the Vedas have to have 6 characteristics. Well, in realizing that you are that Atman, you are one with Brahman, these are the 6 conditions being fulfilled. How? Then he goes on quoting from the Vedas and the Upanishads, because Upanishads are ultimately part of the Vedas. That, well, the Upanishads do keep talk like this in the beginning also, in the end also, in the middle also. And then he says that, yes, there is some kind of achievement. How? Ignorance is washed away. So he makes that beautiful presentation. Although you don't attain something new, and yet there is action involved in the way of getting rid of ignorance. Anyway, these are technical things. I'm sure I have bored you enough. Now, what Swamiji has done here is, he has presented the arguments of Shankaracharya in a way that we can understand. Now, if you go read Brahmasutra, you will not be able to understand whatever Acharya is telling. But remember, Vedanta is founded on those arguments. Now, what you normally hear of Vedanta here and there, that is popular Vedanta. It's I mean, it can be attacked by anybody. And every now and then, I get questions and mails from persons who have been listening to these Vedanta talks, and they ask lots of questions. And what can I say? I mean, it's like cheating in the exam. Cheating in the sense that you don't study for exams, you memorize the answers, you write the things, and when the questions are asked, you are not able to answer. Vedanta is the most profound and the most subtle of philosophies. Swamiji explaining the difficult Brahmasutras to his American disciples, Americans who were and who are steeped in gross materialism, at the best in Christian duality or dualism. With this, we begin how Swamiji interprets this sutra and the commentary by Acharya. Ishvara is to be known from the Vedanta. All Vedas point to him. Thing is, those of you who have some idea about the Vedas, those of you who have studied or listened to some of these talks on Vedas, will say that the popular understanding of the Vedas is that Vedas are all about ceremonies and rituals and yagyas. How can that be? How can these things be pointing towards Atman? Actually, we have slightly skewed understanding of Vedanta, of the Vedas. Vedas run at two levels. The first one is when a person is bound within his mind. Now, when a person is tied to his mind, purified minded, he will see the infinite as one creator God, as one sustainer God, and as various gods who serve as milch cows. It's obvious because mind is involved. And the second one will be when he goes beyond mind. Take the case of Sri Ramakrishna. Those of you who have studied his biography would know that initially he did his sadhana by offering his everything to Mother Kali. So he was bound within the realm of mind. And the infinite appeared before Sri Ramakrishna as Mother Kali. And so on so that stay in Bhavamukha. Bhavamukha is slightly higher. It's not really mind. It is the intermediary stage between the infinite and the perception of the infinity through mind. I mean, these things some of you may find slightly difficult, but it's good to know. And then came Totapuri, who made Sri Ramakrishna do sadhana of the infinite, the true Advaita, when his mind merged completely in the oneness. This is what Vedas also do. So Vedas take up various gods, and there is that creator God, sustainer God. So we have ideas like Purus Suktam. We also have Nasadiya Suktam. And we have all kinds of, there is that river Suktam, and there is also Suktam for gambling. So lots of things. Because the requirement of people who are living in this world are different. Being different, they want different things. And the Vedas, they are like the all wish-fulfilling cow, Kamdenu. And it is there for everyone. The way you want. However, ultimately the Vedas want to say that you are that. Not only in the Upanishads, in the main body of the Vedas, they are normally considered to be ritualistic. There also you find these utterances. Although they are not supposed to be there. Even then we find in Rig Ved, in Yajurved, in Samved, everywhere you find as if these sages were trying to restrain themselves from telling the public that you are divine, because people will not understand. It's not possible. You need to have an extremely cultured mind, extremely elevated mind to know, to hear, to understand, and to know that you are the divine. It is not meant for people who are not yet ready. But when it comes to philosophy, and when the masters are arguing, there will be no holes barred. Everything will come out. So all Vedas point to him, who is the cause, the creator, preserver, and destroyer. Ishwar is the unification of the trinity known as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, which stand at the head of the Hindu pantheon. Now, these things were not discussed by Acharya Shankara. Swamiji is explaining what is Ishwara. Because when you are explaining something and you are using a term, that term must be made clear. So when Swamiji is using the word Ishwar instead of God, when you use the term God, normally you think of Christian God, Muslim God, etc. Swamiji is talking about Ishwara, the fountainhead of all divinities. Says he is that from where Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Shiva, the destroyer, emerge. However, those of you who have some idea about Hindu religion would know that Vishnu is also taken as all three, and Shiva, by the followers of Shiva, is taken as all three. In the popular understanding of Hindu religion, the infinite God, God who is beyond this words and mind, he is the only God, known as Satchidananda or Brahman. And that Brahman, when he wants to create, he now appears as Ishwara. Ishwara comes from the word Ish. Ish means to rule. Ishwara is one who governs everything. And that Ishwar, depending on what kind of act is being performed, he now appears as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. When people criticize Hinduism for having so many gods, they don't realize that all three are ultimately one. Just depending on the different kinds of function, these are different. So see, slowly these things are being harmonized. Samanvaya. So, thou art our Father who taketh us to the other shore of the dark ocean. This is one of those quotations. Now comes the real Brahmasutra, where it says, the Vedas cannot show you Brahman. Not the Vedas, nothing. No book can show you. Neither the Upanishads can show, nor Gita, nor Sri Ramakrishna, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, no book. Neither Bible nor Quran, no book can show you God. They can only help to take away the veil that hides the truth from our eyes. See, this is where the mastery of Shankara bursts forth. On the one hand, he says that this truth is self-evident. Now, if truth is self-evident, then what do we have to do? You have to do nothing. And then why have the Vedas? Why have these scriptures? Because they will help you take away the veil. As Swamiji will also mention, there is dust on the mirror. Because of that dust, you cannot see the reflection. You remove the dust, reflection comes. Now you say that you did something due to which reflection came. The idea is, if you had said you brought in a mirror because of which you are able to see the reflection, that makes sense. There is some act involved. But when you are removing the dust, the relationship between the object and image has not changed. The relationship between object and image would have changed if you were looking at the wall and instead now you brought in a mirror. However, when dust has accumulated over mirror, due to disuse, it's not really achieving something. This is something Vedanta uses repeatedly. They use the example of sandalwood and aguru, say that they have natural fragrance with them. But due to their association with water, they acquire foul smell. We we are so full of fragrance. We are Atman. We have all the strength. We have all knowledge. But we have lived for so long in this world, since the time of creation. We have forgotten our nature and we have acquired extremely foul smell. And that foul smell comes out through every sense organs, every sense organs, or other organs of action. We speak foul. We see foul. We hear foul. Our acts are foul. We walk unnecessarily. We walk to wrong places. Everything about us is foul, 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 dirty, dirty, dirty. In India, taking wine is still a taboo. Most Indians, they don't drink. Most. Nowadays, of course, more people are drinking. Now, why would anyone drink? Or why would anyone smoke? Rather, India had approved use of tobacco earlier. These Brahmins, they used to have tobacco, but wine, no, it's strict taboo. Why? Because tobacco doesn't take away your mind. Wine takes away. Now, when you know that if you take wine, it takes away the control of your mind. Now, why take wine? Because our attitude, our behavior has become foul. Do we need to do something? Nowadays, you'll find that in these popular positivity books, they'll say that work on your weaknesses. What is that? You don't have any weakness. What do you need to work on your weakness? There's no weakness. How can? If man is divine, how can you have any weakness? You are not letting your strength come out. Once I had met one of my friends, and I was meeting him after many years. And his wife was into painting. So when I visited that friend, naturally they were excited to show me the paintings of. And the paintings were pretty solid. That is, fine touch was missing. Now, I don't understand art much, but even I could say that, look, they look so solid. The lady was slightly upset and then she asked me, do you think I have any future in art? Instantly, I said, without waiting for a moment, now look, all knowledge, all power, all strength is within us. Naturally, all talent is within us. There is no reason why you shouldn't be successful. Last I heard was she was drawing really big. Normally, we'll say that you develop a skill, and that is how this Western world will teach us. But remember, you have all the knowledge, all knowledge within you. One blow here, one blow there. Those blockades are moved forever. For some strange reason, we want to hold on to all those blockades. It's a mystery. It's strange. We don't want to grow. And this talk, I had wished to complete that this July 12th talk. I will not be. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. How we don't want to let go of the bondages that we have created for ourselves. And the most interesting thing is that when Sri Ramakrishna had this vision and company of Mother Kali, and when he was doing this sadhana, Advait sadhana, and when Mother Kali herself had permitted him to go ahead, he was not able to let go of Mother Kali. Those of you who have read my book, Tia, there I have described it beautifully. Tia is not able to let go of Hangs. So the Vedas cannot show you Brahman. You are that already. They can only help you take away the veil that hides the truth from our eyes. The first veil to vanish is ignorance. Now, this term ignorance comes in various forms in Vedanta literature. Ignorance it's not about the ultimate ignorance, Maya. It's about a general ignorance that we have. I have very few friends. I'm pretty unlucky that way. Although on Facebook I have around 300, 400, 500, and I don't let them be my friends. There is nothing to discuss, and I have nothing to show them. On Facebook, generally you find that they were eating this and they went here. Who is interested in what you were eating? What nonsense, stupidity. Only narcissistic people will behave that way. They're mentally sick. How can you tell the world what you have been eating? Now, we at the ashram, we are ordinary people. We don't have much dishes. Our food is so ordinary. Now, we can't even tell the world that, look, we eat so ordinarily. And on phone, I have some numbers. I'm a man of very few friends. I'm a man with very few friends. Now, even the few friends that we have, some of them I find, not many, maybe 5, 10, when they talk and when they say that after listening to these talks and after reading my books, slowly they are developing this idea truly within them that this human life is not the ultimate. Given the option, I don't like to talk to anyone beyond these 5, 10 people. In fact, I hardly get maybe 1 or 2 calls a day, and that too only from these people. Sometimes work-related calls come and my phone is practically useless. I hardly get any phone call. Why? You can't relate with people for whom this world is so real. I know people who are so eager to save the dying ones. In their family. Those people might be 90 years, 95 years old. Now, why you are so desperate to save those dying ones? How will it help them? Lord gave life. Lord wants to take away. They had a good life. Now, why you are so? Basically, it means that for them, life is so important. The world is so real. How can you even talk to these people? Not possible. When ignorance goes away, you kind of start realizing that human life is not the ultimate. Death is not the end of everything. There is more to life than meets the eyes. and there is more to life than you can think might be there even after death. And when that is gone, sin goes. Once this idea sets in your mind, the idea of sin goes away. Now, this idea of sin here, to caution you, Swamiji is talking to American devotees, and these American devotees are steeped in the idea of sin. When Christianity thrives on sin, Jesus saves you and all those things. Now, we don't have this problem of sin. Whenever we talk of sin in Hinduism, it is in the sense of karma, action, or in the sense of desires. So the idea of sin goes away. Then you realize that acts are acts. And because you have spiritually evolved, the idea to go snatch everything from this world will go away. Today I was talking to one of my brother monks, and he's a very learned monk and great, junior to me. So sometimes we have discussion. Today he asked me that, how do you know that a person who is striving spiritually still has desires? How do you know? Like Holy Mother Sarada Devi, she talks about vasana. One needs to get out of these desires. How to know that I have desires? So I instantly said, look, the same way that you differentiate between a focused mind and an unfocused mind. Take a kid, take an adult, give him some work. If you find that this person is focused on any kind of work, you can say that his mind is focused. A truly focused mind will be focused in every kind of activity, not only in activities that he likes. If you see, everyone likes certain activities, and when you give him the job that he likes, he will be fully involved in it. But that's not a sign of focused mind, that's a sign of unfocused mind. Just like that, if you have vasana, if you have desires, you will not be able to take the Lord's name. You were startled. Instantly I give the answer. So what about focused mind? What's the relationship between focused mind and taking Lord's name? I said nothing. A scientist has an extremely focused mind, but he is not spiritual. If you take him away from all work and ask him to take Lord's name, he will not be able to take. He will not be able to. Why? Because he has desire. Desire in the world of the mind. The way an unfocused mind cannot focus on some knowledge, just like that, a man with desires cannot focus on God's name. And alasya, sloth, that is also a kind of desire, where you want to be tamasic. So we had some discussion. Then he said, why we find that there are householders who take Lord's name. I said, well, a householder may be in household activities. That does not mean that he has desires. The only test of desirelessness or having desire is with the person himself. Others cannot know. I cannot know whether or not you are desireless, because you can pose easily. You know, as far as you are concerned, you are the best test of your own spiritual evolution. If you love taking Lord's name, if you love being one with the spiritual ideals, it means your desires have gone down. It has nothing to do with focus. Focus belongs to the world. So much so that Sri Ramakrishna says that a person who is very good at something in particular, he cannot apply his mind to God. That's why scientists, I mean, when I say scientists, I mean Western scientists, they cannot apply their mind to God. When somebody says that science is my religion, it only means that you cannot focus on God. No, it's not. You can focus only on science. You have moved away from that. If you say that science is your religion and mathematics is your God, you have moved away from that. You are not into it. However, that does not mean that you can never come back to the Lord. You can. You can easily. So sin goes and then desire ceases. Once desire ceases, desire is directly linked with selfishness. When you value your body, you value your mind too much. You're selfish. When you value your body, when you value your ego, when you value your mind, naturally you want certain things for yourself. There will be desires. And when there are desires, sometimes you'll be crossing the line. When you're crossing the line, oh, there is ignorance. They are all linked up. You don't know your true nature. Because you don't know your true nature, you always have this idea of incompleteness within you. When you have this idea of incompleteness, you want to get rid of this incompleteness. You want to get rid of this weakness. So you work. The moment you work, there will be virtuous acts and there will be vicious acts known as sin. Now you say that I'll go and cut at the root of ignorance, primordial ignorance, my itself. You cannot do it. You have to begin from the beginning. If the ultimate goal is to acquire a PhD degree or a postdoctoral degree from a university, you cannot go and tell its vice chancellor that, well, I am here to get a PhD degree. They will say that first you have to get to class 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how you go. In Vedanta, also in religion and spirituality too, you cannot go and say that I want to begin with Atma Gyan. That's not how it's done. Ultimately, you have to begin from the beginning. That's what says that the first veil to Venus is ignorance. When you start struggling, Swamiji will explain how. So then selfishness ends and all misery disappears. All misery is because we have identified ourselves with the wrong things. This cessation of ignorance can only come when I know that God and I are one. In other words, identify yourself with the body. Disidentify yourself with the body and in other words, identify yourself with Atma, not with human limitations. Disidentify yourself with the body and all pain will cease. This is the secret of healing. The universe is a case of hypnotization. De-hypnotize yourself and cease to suffer. It's a very interesting statement. Those of you who have been listening to our talks on Raj Yoga, there is described yoga is another system of philosophy. How the pure soul somehow comes in contact with nature, Prakriti, and feels attracted towards it. Basically, it's a state of hypnosis. Because it's a state of hypnosis, it cannot get out of it. Through various means, various reasons, somewhere when there is this awakening of spiritual ideals, the process begins. So entire yoga sadhana, all the things that yoga describes, what? It's about getting detoxified, dehypnotized. What is religion? It is dehypnotization, detoxification. World is a toxic. World creates the hypnosis. Mother Nature creates the hypnosis. You need to get out of it. Once I had read a book where some logical gentleman, he claimed himself to be extremely logical and all. And he had come up with the idea of auto hypnosis. Said that religion is auto hypnosis. As these Marxists say, religion is the opiate of the society. Is a religion opiate of the society? I had a very good friend long ago. Unfortunately, the fellow died. He was brilliant. And he was a Marxist. And I'm still surprised, with all due respect to Marx, who was a nice person. Now, he was a young boy in those days. He was in college. And I just joined and I just become a monk. We were good friends, and he came arguing with me, convincing me that, see, religion is like opium. And he gave the example that if you feed opium to a cow, the cow will stay in a stupor. Just like that, when you feed religion to the masses go into a stupor. I was very young. I was hardly 20, 21. And even then, I did not understand Marxism, nor did I know much of religion. But because I had grown up in religious traditions, and Indian religious traditions, they are not hypnotic traditions the way other religions are. Hindus are much more open, particularly those who have some education. I felt it was wrong because there was a mistake in his argument. Even at that age, I realized why. I feel that, look, no one is forcing me to be into religion. That was a simple argument I was using to myself. And then later I came to know that he was thoroughly trained in Marxist ideology, and he was trained to present these ideas to the public from public forum. Unfortunately, he died young and through unnatural means. That was very sad. But he was a very good friend of mine. However, I was not trained in any system till then, and my mind was extremely green, extremely immature. Even then, I could feel the fallacy in his argument. Where is that stupor? As a Hindu, and having grown up in a pious family, I very well knew that it was my choice. I could take it or I may leave it. Even when I became a monk or when I continue to be, choice is mine. No one is forcing me. So where comes this issue of hypnosis? When you have the choice of being with it or not being with it, then where comes the issue of hypnosis? This is the problem. Now, why we say that the world is hypnosis? Because you have no choice. Even if you want to get out of it, you cannot. It's like getting trapped in an extremely bad marriage. Extremely bad marriage. Even if you want to get out, you cannot. You want to take a divorce? Divorce will not be granted unto you. There is no way. Hindus still don't have the concept of divorce. They use the term viched, whatever that might mean, because we really don't have that concept. Trapped in a bad marriage and eternally. From the time of creation, we are trapped in this. And even if we want to get out, we cannot get out. And this is hypnosis. You're totally hypnotized in it. Even if you talk to people who are not into all this, they will not even believe all these stupid things. They'll say that, what stupid? You are hypnotized. Who is hypnotized? He is hypnotized or you are hypnotized. You are struggling to get out of this. So you are on the process of de-hypnotizing yourself. This is Vedanta. Vedanta teaches you how to de-hypnotize. So what about other systems? Any system that teaches you about heaven, that teaches you about God, being one with God, and they are all hypnosis. Swamiji will continue with this thing further. Total dehypnotization comes when you are left all alone. You become your own master. To think that anyone else is your master is to be hypnotized into slavery. We don't even realize that what is slavery we are into. Everyone in this world is my master. Can you imagine? My hunger is my master. My thirst is my master. Weather is my master. And my friends, they are my master. My beloved, everyone is dictating terms. I'm a slave, driven by 1,000 and a million masters. And yet, we can get rid of them. We cannot, because we are under hypnosis. The goal of Vedanta is to de-hypnotize you. We'll continue with this. Our time is up. We need to stop it. The bottom line, the universe is a case of hypnotization. De-hypnotize yourself and cease to suffer. All your sufferings are caused because you are hypnotized. De-hypnotize yourself. Thank you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanam.